She didn't just perform on screen. She felt every moment. That rare honesty turned Sally Field into one of the most beloved figures in Hollywood history. Sally Margaret Field was born on November 6, 1946, in Pasadena, California, into a world where imagination seemed to hum in the background of everyday life. From her earliest memories, storytelling felt as natural to her as breathing. While other children might have dreamed of movie stardom, Sally was fascinated by the people behind the stories, their hopes, flaws, and quiet courage. She watched the world with the sensitivity of an artist in the making, quietly collecting gestures, emotions, and fragments of truth she would one day bring to life on screen. That empathy, more than anything else, became her secret strength. Growing up in post-war California meant living at the edge of Hollywood's golden glow. The air carried the scent of opportunity, yet fame was never her goal. Sally's mother, an actress herself, introduced her to the discipline behind performance, the rehearsals, the uncertainty, and the need to believe in one's own worth even when applause fades. Those lessons shaped Sally's understanding that authenticity would always matter more than glamour. She carried that conviction into her teenage years, where a blend of warmth, humor, and quiet determination set her apart from her peers. When she began studying at the Columbia Pictures acting workshop, Sally approached each class with a rare seriousness. To her, acting wasn't about pretending. It was about uncovering emotion until it felt real. Instructors quickly noticed her focus and her ability to find vulnerability within simplicity. She wasn't the loudest or most flamboyant student. She was the one who listened, absorbed, and transformed feeling into something magnetic. That depth of curiosity would later become the foundation of a career defined by honesty. By the mid-1960s, television became the perfect stage for her to share that energy. Her debut role introduced audiences to a young woman whose optimism felt refreshingly genuine in an era of polished perfection. Within months, viewers across America were captivated by her radiant smile and her ability to make every scene shimmer with authenticity. She was the kind of performer who didn't just entertain, she comforted. There was something profoundly relatable about her, a sense that she carried a piece of ordinary humanity wherever she went. Yet even as the spotlight grew brighter, Sally remained restless. She sensed the limitations of being seen only as the sweet girl of television. Beneath that cheerful image was a young artist yearning for depth, for roles that challenged her, frightened her, and allowed her to explore the complex reality of being human. That desire for truth, seeded in childhood and nurtured through discipline, would soon push her to break free from typecasting and reshape her destiny. As the 1960s came to a close, Sally Field had already become a familiar face in American households. Her role in Gidget brought her youthful charm into millions of living rooms, and her follow-up performance in The Flying Nun made her a nationwide favorite. Yet, behind that cheerful smile, she carried a growing frustration. The roles that had made her famous were also the ones keeping her trapped. Hollywood saw her as lighthearted, cute, and safe. But Sally knew she was capable of more. The characters written for her were sweet and simple, but the woman inside was layered, observant, and restless for authenticity. The entertainment world in that era wasn't kind to young women who wanted control over their careers. Actresses were often told who to be, what to wear, and how to act, both on screen and off. But Sally's gentle appearance disguised a fierce determination. She refused to let others dictate her creative path. Instead, she stepped away from the comfort of her TV fame and enrolled in the actor's studio, a bold move that surprised many in the industry. Under the mentorship of the legendary Lee Strasberg, she began to strip away the habits and mannerisms of her television persona, learning to channel raw truth instead of practice charm. The period of training marked a complete transformation. Sally confronted her insecurities, her doubts, and her fears of not being taken seriously. She learned to access deeper emotions, to understand silence as power, and to trust the honesty in her instincts. By the mid-1970s, she emerged with a new kind of confidence, one that wasn't dependent on approval or popularity, but rooted in her own sense of worth as an artist. Her dramatic breakthrough came in 1976 with Sybil, a television film that required her to portray a woman living with dissociative identity disorder. It was a role unlike anything she had done before, emotionally grueling, psychologically complex, and artistically daring. Critics were stunned. The bubbly sitcom actress had disappeared completely, replaced by a performer of extraordinary depth and vulnerability. The performance earned her an Emmy Award and, more importantly, respect from an industry that had underestimated her for years. And after Sybil, Sally's momentum only grew. She was no longer the ingenue. She was a force. Her transition from television to film symbolized her evolution as both an actress and a woman. In 1977, she starred alongside Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit, where her natural humor and easy chemistry made her a box office favorite once again. But just 2 years later, she silenced any remaining doubts about her dramatic power with Norma Rae, a film that would change her life forever. In Norma Rae, Sally embodied the spirit of a working-class woman who finds her voice and stands up for justice. The performance earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress and established her as one of the defining talents of her generation. It wasn't just a career victory, it was a statement. Sally Field had proven that courage, discipline, and emotional truth could transcend typecasting, rewriting what it meant to be a female star in Hollywood. NHER's journey from the Flying Nun to Norma Rae wasn't merely a change in roles, it was a transformation of identity. Sally Field had discovered the power of her voice, and she would never let anyone silence it again. The late 1970s marked the dawn of Sally Field's golden era, a time when her name began to carry the weight of both talent and truth. Fresh off the success of Norma Rae, she stood at a crossroads where artistry met influence. Hollywood, once skeptical of her ability to go beyond comedy, now watched in awe as she took command of the screen with a presence that felt both intimate and immense. Sally wasn't just performing anymore, she was inhabiting her characters, revealing parts of the human spirit that audiences instantly recognized within themselves. In the early 1980s, she cemented her status among Hollywood's elite with Places in the Heart, 1984, a deeply moving story of perseverance, loss, and redemption set during the Great Depression. Sally's portrayal of Edna Spaulding, a widow fighting to save her farm and family, was raw, understated, and profoundly human. There were no grand theatrics, just a quiet strength that radiated through every frame. For this performance, she earned her second Academy Award for Best Actress, a rare achievement that placed her among the industry's most revered talents. When she accepted the award, the world saw the same humility that had guided her from the start. Gratitude mixed with disbelief that her honesty could touch so many lives. NBUT awards were never Sally's motivation. What truly defined her success was her ability to connect with audiences on a deeply emotional level. Every role she chose carried an element of truth, a piece of herself she was willing to share. That authenticity became her signature, evident again in 1989's Steel Magnolias. Playing McGlynn Eatonton, a strong yet tender mother coping with unimaginable grief, Sally delivered one of cinema's most memorable portrayals of love and loss. Her emotional intensity in the film's climactic scene remains etched in the hearts of viewers decades later, a masterclass in acting that transcended words. As the 1990s unfolded, Sally continued to evolve, proving that her artistry was not confined to one genre. She brought humor and depth to Mrs. Doubtfire, 1993, playing a woman torn between love and independence in the wake of a family separation. The role allowed her to blend wit with heartache, reminding audiences that even in lighthearted comedies, she could find emotional resonance. The following year, she graced the screen in Forrest Gump, 1994, portraying the resilient and compassionate Mrs. Gump, a mother whose quiet wisdom and unshakable love anchored one of the most iconic films of all time. Her simple yet profound delivery of lines like, "Life is like a box of chocolates," became part of movie history. And Sally's filmography reads like a journey through every facet of the human experience. Whether she was standing up for justice in Norma Rae, struggling through hardship in Places in the Heart, or offering gentle strength in Forrest Gump, she brought a rare depth of empathy to her work. Every performance felt lived in, as if she wasn't playing characters, but channeling real people who had lived and loved before her. And even as she transitioned into more mature roles, Sally's brilliance never dimmed. Her portrayal of Mary Todd Lincoln in Steven Spielberg's Lincoln, 2012, reminded the world that age had only deepened her artistry. Balancing fragility with fiery conviction, she brought emotional dimension to a historical figure often overshadowed by her husband's legacy. Critics praised her performance as one of quiet brilliance, the mark of a veteran actress who had mastered her craft without losing her heart. NBY at this point, Sally Field had achieved something few performers ever do: longevity without compromise. Every decade of her career revealed another layer of her artistry, another evolution of her truth. She proved that real success in Hollywood doesn't come from reinvention for the sake of relevance, but from remaining genuine in every era. Her work became a reflection of her own life, honest, fearless, and beautifully human. As the years went on, Sally Field's story became about far more than acting. Off-screen, she emerged as a powerful advocate, using her voice to speak about the issues closest to her heart. Whether discussing women's rights, aging in Hollywood, or the challenges of self-acceptance, she never shied away from vulnerability. In an industry built on illusion, Sally's openness was revolutionary. She spoke with the same emotional clarity that defined her performances: genuine, grounded, and deeply human. And in 2018, she invited the world into her inner life with her memoir In Pieces. It wasn't a glossy retelling of fame, but a raw, deeply introspective account of the personal struggles that shaped her. Readers were struck by her candor, her willingness to confront pain, and her refusal to let past wounds define her future. The book reminded fans that behind every role, from Norma Rae to Forrest Gump, there was a woman who had fought, healed, and evolved. It was Sally's truth, laid bare with the same emotional honesty that made her a star. NHER advocacy and authenticity have turned her into more than an actress. She's become a voice of resilience for generations of women who see themselves reflected in her journey. She's spoken out for equality, representation, and compassion, inspiring countless others to embrace their imperfections with grace. Sally's influence extends beyond the screen. It lives in the conversations she started, the barriers she helped break, and the lives she quietly touched along the way. Today, when audiences look back at her six-decade career, they see more than a collection of iconic performances. They see a lifetime devoted to truth, in art, in emotion, and in self-discovery. Sally Field's legacy is one of courage and authenticity, a reminder that greatness isn't measured by fame or glamour, but by heart. From the bright-eyed girl who dreamed of acting to the celebrated icon who redefined it, Sally Field has proven that sincerity never goes out of style. Her story continues to inspire, not just because of the roles she played, but because of the humanity she brought to them.